Hi, I'm Shayna with pursuitofnappiness.org, sharing with you an inspiring interview I had with Chenae Bullock. She's a member of the Chenae tribe. She works hard to fight for justice of black and brown people. So tune in to hear the amazing things that she's doing. She recently spoke at the Millions Man March in DC, and she is telling us ways that we can stay connected and fight for justice. So tune in, bear with us through the technical difficulties, be inspired, and remember, we are all in pursuit. Okay. Hello, Chenae. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good, great. So I'm definitely honored, and it's a privilege to interview you today. So if you don't mind just introducing yourself and telling us what you do and who you are.
Nadasui Sukumpanayu Mashun Natuiusqua. My name is Eileen Canoe. I'm Butterfly Woman. My taxpayer's name is Chenae Bullock. And a little bit about what I do is I am just that. I'm a butterfly, and I have many different types of talents, from utilizing my hands to construct, textiles for clothing, as well as paint and jewelry. And then I also use the art of my mind to inspire people. I communicate with a lot of young people specifically to awaken them right now and who they are, because it's hard. We're always trying to find ourselves, and but we actually, there's no need to find ourselves because we are already who we are. So I guess you can say, people say, what form of art do you do? I'm an expressionist. I express myself, and so that is what I do.
Awesome. And so the earrings that you're wearing, did you make those?
Actually, these earrings that I'm wearing, I actually didn't make these ones, but my great cousin, who is 94,
Wow.
when I graduated from college, 2011, she came to my graduation party by herself. It was at my grandmother's house, and she lives literally like down the road. Her house to my grandmother's house in the backyard, and she had these earrings wrapped in a paper towel,
Mm.
and she gave them to me, and she said she's had them for years. So they're very special to me. But I do make a lot of different jewelry. Um, you know, I do have some to show, but I do make a lot of different jewelry. But they're hand beaded,
Mm-hmm.
and I just love them. They match my shirt.
Awesome. Yes, they are beautiful. And so, your introduction, you, I want to hear, because you are a part of a tribe, a Native American tribe. And what is that tribe's name? And tell us a little bit more about your background.
Well, the tribe is located in Southampton, Long Island, New York. And the name of the tribe that I am an enrolled member is the Shinnecock tribe. The Shinnecock Indian Nation, on paper, is what it's called by the federal government. However, that is one of what was 13 to 15 tribes in Long Island. And we are the only federally recognized tribe in Long Island today. There are still a number of tribes there. Some are state recognized, and some are not even recognized by the state at all. But we are federally recognized. And we live right in the Hamptons. There's a reservation right in the Hamptons where Diddy has his white parties every Labor Day weekend. Everybody from Russell Simmons to Jay-Z, Beyonce. It's the richest vacation spot. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
But it
and
is
we've been
also,
there.
yeah, it's also your sacred land.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Our history shows that we've been living in that particular part of the world for about 15,000 years or more.
Wow.
And today there's a lot of scientific research that's proving that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's a blessing, by God or the Creator to be able to know that, and I don't have to search so much anymore. Um, which I didn't really. My mother always raised me to know these things, but as I got older, I was able to kind of really take it in a different way. So that is the language that I introduced myself in, because I've been able to learn much of that. I don't speak it fluently. It's not a fluent language, but it actually is a language that was translated by some of the first settlers here. That was how they actually learned the language. But that's also how they stripped us of speaking our language, by teaching us the Bible and converting the Bible into the language that we spoke, and forcing us to speak English. But I don't think that they planned that we would now use that Bible as a dictionary to learn our language again.
Wow.
So it kind of helps us today.
Yeah. And so, how has your involvement in your tribe shaped you as a woman? I know you mentioned that when you were younger, you were involved, but now that you're older, you have a different grasp on the knowledge and just everything that your tribe is giving you. So, what has your tribe given you? How does that influence what you do now?
Well, when I was younger, I didn't grow up on a reservation. I didn't grow up among my actual family. I grew up around a lot of different Native American people. I mean, there's over thousands of different Native people here in the United States. I grew up all over the place. I was a military brat. I lived in Saudi Arabia, Camise, Mache, Tennessee, North Carolina, some of the biggest cities here on the East Coast. But my mother always taught me the spirituality of it from the ground up. She always taught me how to pray. She always taught me the importance of what corn, bean, and squash were to not only us but the earth. She taught me a lot of these different types of things.
And
and as a
can you
child,
share some of that with us? Because I
yeah.
know corn is definitely a big part of, our diet and especially our history here in America, but we don't really know what the significance of it is.
Well, corn, beans, and squash. And even the word squash comes from our language. The proper pronunciation of it would have been Ascuda squash. But the corn grows very tall, and the beans wrap around it to keep it strong, and the squash grows on the ground, providing shaded leaves so that when it rains, the water doesn't dry up or evaporate as quickly. And the corn also is a type of plant, just like tobacco is, that takes out tons and tons of nitrogen of the soil. And without nitrogen in the soil, then, come years down the line, you won't be able to grow in that same place. It's not as fertile. You take all the different nutrients out of the soil. But the beans and the squash put back in that same amount of nitrogen. So they need each other to grow. Just like, our people coming together today. We need to be united. There's so much that we're taking from this earth. And see, this is where I'm saying now that as an adult, I'm learning these things. See, my mom always told me, well, you have to grow the beans because it keeps the corn straight. You have to grow the squash because look what happens if you don't grow it. The water evaporates and the corn dies. But now, being an adult, I can look at it in like a way of life.
Okay, it paused for a second, but we're back on.
It's okay.
Okay, current. Great. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that, because we just don't know. We're not really connected to history or connected to the ground and the earth. I definitely want to talk about recently you were at the Million Man March that was in DC, and just tell us about your involvement in that march. I know you spoke. I would love to hear more about what you were saying and just how that experience was.
Well, I honestly, this year has been, I mean, it's such a journey, you know.
Yes.
I was not going down in thought that I was going to be speaking. I mean, even when I got there, up until the moment, to the very second, I didn't know that I was going to be speaking. But I have learned within these past years that, you know, I literally have just opened myself to be used as a vessel for the Creator, for the people. And, you know, a lot of times people are taught that in theology and school and all these different kinds of things. But in the natural world, in the natural sense, that's exactly what I am. So my some of the different tribal members from the Northeastern Territory and New England. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we're back on.
Okay. Some of the tribes here in New England and Long Island, and when I say New England and Long Island, we never put borders there, you know. So we're actually like one family, you know. The tribes that are out here with the big casinos, Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, that's Mohegan and Mashantucket, Pequot and Shinnecock, and we are all one family. We stem from the same lineage. But there had been talk among those communities because a lot of the different people that helped to put on the Million Man March were traveling out to some of these different tribes. Mm-hmm. And with me being one of the grassroots traditionalists, I had spoken to other people, like some of the clan mothers and so forth, and it was encouraged that we go. So not everybody was able to make it. You know, things happen. And so much has happened that weekend. I was kind of stuck between paddling in a sacred paddle in Boston, Massachusetts, on Deer Island. The Nipmuc people in Massachusetts, they paddle every year. Yeah, so the same weekend was the Million Man March. And, you know, I had already been kind of planning on doing both, and I didn't know how. And then there was a huge Indigenous Peoples rally in New York City. Mm-hmm. You know, there was I had to wait on God to tell me where to go. You know, mm-hmm. I mean, these are three most important things that people should be doing. You know, ceremony with your people and the ancestors in the water, and then, you know, so I just made my decision literally like 3 days before I got in the car to go down there, and I said I'm gonna go. So my girlfriend, she's Shinnecock, she's one of our tribal leaders. She asked me to go with her, so we went down a couple of days before because, you know, even though there was a Million Man March, there was a lot of leadership meetings going on and networking and things of that nature for a lot of the spiritual people and economical, political people. So we went to do that, and then when the march happened, one of my close friends, you know, he notioned to me as he was singing to come up on stage, you know, and I was like, there's a million people here, okay. So I went up there and I was right with him. You know, he's like my brother, you know, and I was teared up behind him because I was just thinking to myself, here's this young man who's 28 years old, you know, in his traditional clothing, in front of a million people on territory that, you know, our people once came to. We paddled to the Chesapeake Bay from Long Island and Massachusetts. Not to mention, slaves were traded right there in the same area. Mm-hmm. And just to know that, like, he, coming from Boston, to be able to kind of finally get to that point, it was very moving. You know, so in that same exact moment that song ended, he like stepped off and introduced me, and I was just like, I needed to collect myself. I wasn't I didn't expect that. I expected to be his backbone, his sister, you know. But I collected myself, and I realized that that's what the creator needed me to do. Because that at that point in the march, it's not really in the video because that was the opening prayer for the actual event. So all of the spiritual leaders from all different parts of the world were there to pray in the way that they did. And so what I chose to do out of respect, because what I've been taught as a earth woman, you know, there are different parts in the earth that we're all from, and we always have to remember the ancestors that come from those parts of the earth. But once, you know, I kind of put all that into context, and I prayed in the language, and I prayed over the land, because so much has happened on that land over time. And then as I was looking down, you know, the National Mall, I was seeing millions and millions and millions of people. And I just looked, and I was looking at I always pay attention to the small things, you know, and I was looking at the birds that were in the trees where we were. I was looking at the sky. I was looking, you know, these birds have been there for generation after generation after generation after generation, you know, and they've seen so many people stand right in that same spot that I was standing in to speak. And I had to think about them. I had to think about all of the ancestors and the spirits that were with the people that were there also. And also something that I've been taught is that you have to be very careful sometimes in places that you go, because your ancestors might not be friends with those that you've in the territory. And so as a person that speaks the language of the people from that territory, I ask them for permission to happen. You know, I grew up with the Piscataway people, the Piscataway people of that particular territory. You know, when I lived in Maryland, like I said, I mean, even though I lived all over the place, my mom always made sure that, you know, I was, you know, being taught the culture. And so that's what I did. And I prayed that we could all come together in one mind and one sound for one purpose. You know, and that is to demand justice, because we all have, from being a brown-skinned woman, you know, from being a light-skinned woman, from being a woman, from being a black woman, from being a Latino woman, from being a Shinnecock woman or a Navajo woman. And that's just, you know, that's just the concept of a woman. But we all were there for all different types of things. And I just prayed that we could all come to a collective thought, and the spirit would move us. And so much did after that. I mean, it was just like, it was so powerful. I mean, I was seeing like birds fly over us as the minister was speaking. I was looking at like a lot of different things happen with the earth. Because see, we don't pay attention a lot of times to these things. And until it happens in a drastic way. But the small, tiny things, like the robins that are flying from tree to tree, you know, the blue jays that were just listening, which usually they're very territorial. They didn't harm anybody. You know, those kinds are what I pay attention to, because that tells you that the Spirit of God is working, you know, and that was pretty much what took place in those pictures that you saw.
That's beautiful. So I want to know more about what you believe to be justice right now, because there is a lot going on.
You know, I can't really wrap my mind around that word justice, because it never was in my language. So, and equality and all these different words, right? If we signed documents with words like that and didn't know what we were signing, because we didn't have those words. So, but for me, I think that unity is in my word. Fairness, things like that are. Love and peace are in our words. And then are the opposing words. Destruction, you know, deception, All those different kinds of things are also in our word. So the way I see it is that we need to all kind of come together collectively to understand the similarities first and then the differences. And then once we can do that, we need to really realize that it's not about what I want and what I need as opposed to what you want and what you need. And I'm going to keep this. This earth is going to have her way, regardless how much money I have, regardless how much money this person has, or how much money I don't have. She's going to have her way. And that is, I think, what we need to focus on all together. Mm-hmm. Black, white, yellow, and black and red. And in our culture, we have prophecies too. We have something called the medicine wheel that has 4 colors, and it's yellow, it's red, it's black, and it's white, and they represent different types of things. And so, if one has more than the other, is that justice?
Mm-hmm. Or is that unity?
Right. Mm-hmm. Or yes, it's ununified. And so that I think that's the concept that we need to understand. But so much has been put in front of us that like we can't even see. Like we're kind of like brainwashed. We're kind of like zombies walking around. We're not even our real selves. It's like a different spirit that's in us. And we have to rid that foreign spirit from our minds. And I say just that because when I speak to some of our elders, like that 94-year-old woman who gave me these, I came back from the Million Man March and I said, "Oh, Harriet," I said, "guess what?" She had her hospice in there. She was laying on a bed. She's kind of out of it. I said, "I spoke at the Million Man March." And she said, "Oh, we made history." Like she lit up like a kid at Christmas, and that makes me feel like justice was served. Mm-hmm. Because of all the things that she went through, at 94, to be in Southampton where you remember seeing your cousins getting kidnapped, at the age of 9 and 12 because they were speaking the language or because they were Shinnecock and you guys didn't walk in groups, and that's not that long ago to think, so to be able to go back and give healing is serving justice. Mm-hmm. I think. I don't think it's really about all of these political things and stuff. We've gotten like that's not natural. It's not something that we as humans really understand, and that's why so much destruction is happening because we haven't grasped it yet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so what are some ways in which we can practice unity, or for our people that we can wake up, and what are some ways that you are continuing to awaken the people?
I think being in nature is something that every single human relates to. I mean, you can go to a beach and sit at an ocean. When people always say, "Oh, I like to go to the beach," it just like it just makes me feel better. And then there's some people, they always say put on music that sounds like the ocean, and and that's and then there's the forest. There's all different. I think just being outside in the natural world as a natural person, our minds might not be natural, but what type of thinking do you really need to do when you're out there in nature? Mm-hmm. Unless you have to survive, and then most of the people that that live in nature, you can talk to them about this, and they're black, white, red, and yellow, and they all have the same type of feeling because they're human and they're natural. And I think that as Native people, indigenous people, we have still been able to do just that. Mm-hmm. We have still been able to and the reason why we're in so much pain is because we are being pulled further and further and further and further and further away of the natural world. Mm-hmm. But a lot of us still live outside in these, not outside, but a lot of us still live in these natural places. And if we don't, we've been taught to go to those places to pray. Before, when slaves when they got that day off on Sundays for church, where'd they go? They went outside and prayed. They collected in the woods. They weren't inside. And they felt better.
Yes.
And that is something that that we have to start understanding as humans. And because if outside is being neglected and forgotten, she's going to tap on our door and remind us that this is what's important. And I think that is the main advice that I can give to anybody. And if you don't, there's no rules in it. Children go outside and they roll down the grass, and they pull up grass, they throw sand, they scream, that's something that human people need to do. And the spirits are happy when the humans do that. And I've witnessed that in people. But there's humbling experiences, and the Creator will humble you. I've paddled in oceans, and I've been terrified. The first time my entire life, I was terrified. I was paddling in Washington State, and it was about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the Puget Sound, and it was coming in high. And remember, my name is I lead canoe. So I was in the front of the canoe as a pacer, meaning that no one is in front of me. I had about 6 people behind me. Nobody could see my face. And I was just paddling, and I was scared for my life. There's sharks in this water. I'm seeing whales. I'm seeing seals. I'm seeing jellyfish the size of my paddle. Wow. Water's just pouring into our canoe. And I'm my arms are tired. It's been about 10 hours. There are eagles flying all over us. All these beautiful things I should be paying attention to. But my mind was you gonna die. But my spirit was saying, just be free. And let God take over. And then think about all of those women during the times of destruction when they came into the Shinnecock village and they came into the Pequot village, and those women snuck away on canoes in the 1600s to paddle for their lives. Think about that. And that's what my ancestors are what gave me the changing of my mind, and God is what gave me the strength to move forward. And so, that humbling experience in nature is what changed me. Not reading a book, not anything. It was just me, myself, and nature.
Yeah, that's definitely important. And I appreciate you saying that, because we are so disconnected. So one of the things people can do is to get out there in nature, and that's their opportunity to have the ancestors speak to them, have some type of connection with God in the natural state. And that is really powerful and really, really beautiful. What are some of the other things that we can expect to see from you in the near future? Some goals, or more importantly, let me ask you this question: what are you in pursuit of?
I am in pursuit of maintaining a balance. And that's hard, because much as I said, all this natural world and the traditional way and the ancient way, and that is the way forward. But where we are today, this world where we have technology and we sleep by it, and radiation, and it messes up with our natural world. But there's still a balance if we can keep that mindset and figure out how to use these things as tools to awaken those around us so that they can maintain that same balance.
That's
and
amazing.
With that being said, I am working on opening up my own marketing firm.
Really?
And as you know, I went to school for theatrical production. Um, studied acting, which is the study of people.
Yes.
And the mind and all of that, and the energy and the spirit. And then also studying directing. Understanding on how to work with different types of people and getting them to that balance. Um, so with marketing, I'm seeing that I'm able to help companies come to that same mindset. I study economical ladders and things of that nature and figure out how to reach different demographics. It's all analytical type of stuff. But I'm also to take some of that natural rhetoric that I was talking about and feed it through those images and the messages that are in missions that are going out, so that people can latch on to these tangible things to maintain that balance.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to open up my own marketing firm, and I'm working on that. Right now I'm currently in Rhode Island, New England, which is, I consider it home. I wasn't born in Rhode Island, but I was born in the Northeast. My people paddled here,
Mm-hmm.
and we stem from these same people, and it's great. But at the same time, I'm seeing that as a minority here in New England, it's been difficult to be able to get my business off the ground, because it's not something that people want to see up here.
Mm-hmm.
And nor do people want to invest in that. And I know a lot of people are talking about moving to Atlanta, but I've been studying things economically, been looking at Forbes. I've been studying just a lot of statistics and data, and it seems like it's a place that people want to invest in young people like myself.
Yes.
And then once that happens, then I'll be able to come back and open up an office somewhere here.
Okay.
You
So
know?
you're looking at potentially going to Atlanta and
Yes.
coming back.
Yes.
Great. And so with that, you said it's a little bit of a challenge. And I love the fact that you have a goal to take yourself to a new environment. I was talking about this with someone else, because a lot of times when you're going through difficult situations, people try to tell you to deal with it, but then
Yeah.
sometimes you need a change of environment in order for you to benefit and thrive. And so for you to say that, I think is also motivation for somebody else that might be considering, okay, well, where do I want to go? There might be some uncertain things, but looking at this situation as a way to bring you out, to bring you back in and on top in a way. So that is very inspiring. Um, so I would love for you to share your social media networks. Do you sell your jewelry online as well?
Sometimes I haven't been so much. I haven't really been able to keep up much with the demand. I do a lot of different functions.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'll have like I'll vend at I have a table, and the reason why I like doing that more so than selling it online is because you get information about that piece.
Mm-hmm.
You get to get the experience. I can have conversations like this at my booth.
Mm-hmm.
While you're buying your jewelry, and now you know where it's come from. Whereas I could post earrings and tell a story like this, but it's not until it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
I do skateboards also.
Really?
Yeah.
And so are you designing them? Are you making them?
I actually I don't make the actual board itself, no. But I paint them with Eastern style designs.
Mm-hmm.
And the main reason I came up with that concept, I was driving to work one day and I was just like, how can I get these kids on board with what we're doing? Like, there's some vital as Indian people that, like, people talk about, let's take our land back. We can do that. We just need to understand the legalities of it.
Mm-hmm.
And before you can understand the legalities of it, you have to understand the history of it. because there's a lot of historical documents that we have, and through those stories, I put in my designs.
Amazing.
So I was like, I could put it on skateboards, and they'll ask about the design, and then they'll get this story.
Wow.
You know, so like whaling, all those kinds of things. People didn't know that a Native American on a whaling ship was like a rabbit foot. They had a cage that they put a Native American in.
Wow.
They said that if you put a Native American in a cage, then you would come back with a whale. And if you didn't have that Native American in a cage on the ship, you'd be whaleless, because we were whalers here.
Mm-hmm.
We are connected to the whales here. We have the stories and the routes that the whales are. We know the best times to go get them. We've studied them. We've hunted them. So when they came over here, they forced us to teach them these ways.
Mm-hmm.
And whaling, people don't realize, whaling was one of the larger economical businesses here in the United States before tobacco was.
Wow.
Before cotton. Right out of New Bedford, Massachusetts, where the slaves from the South came into off of the ships from the Underground Railroad. So there's a lot of those things I put in my designs in a very abstract way.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So just tell us how we can stay connected with you on your pursuit of balance.
Well, you can stay connected with me on Instagram at Aponiwind. That's APONIWIND. At Aponiwind. I'm also on Twitter with the same thing, and Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
I try to keep it all the same.
Good. Consistency is definitely... Okay, wait one
second. Media strategy.
Okay, there we go.
I said I try to keep everything the same.
Yes, that is definitely needed.
And that's why I said, like, that's a tip for social media strategy. I always tell all my clients that, like, try not to have too much of the difference. They're not going to be able to follow you.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be easy.
Yes. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, we'll be in touch.
Yes, Peace Kanash.